Hello, welcome to Longshot Larry's Sports Astrology. Today we're looking at the T20 World Cup final between New Zealand and Australia for 14th of November, 6 p.m. So the ascendant is Gemini, that represents Australia. They are the slight favourites. The descendant is Sagittarius, representing New Zealand. The three things that stand out to me in this chart are: number one, that the North Node very close to the ascendant, has a part to play in this game. Number two, we've got the part of fortune down here at 8 Libra 06. Saturn is up here applying to a trine very closely. And Venus is just separating from a square. So I think those three have a part to play. And the third thing is that the moon is void of course in the very last degree of Pisces. It will slip into Aries about 8 o'clock or so local time, or 10 to 8. And I would expect there's going to be a change in momentum around that 8 o'clock period in this game. So looking at the Frawley method, there's nothing which really stands out on this chart. If we look at the Antiska positions, Mercury is Lord of the First, very close to the MC. The Antiska of Mercury, that's one for the favourites. You can also see the Sun here is 22 Scorpio. That's in an area associated with the Antiska of Saturn. Call that combust. Saturn rules the 10th, so that's -1 for the underdog. So overall you'd probably give this slightly to the favourites. However, with the moon being void of course from a horary perspective, quite often this chart is not fit to judge, they would say. But anyway, not a great deal happening from the Frawley method, so we're going to go and have a look at New Zealand first. Okay, so we've got the chart for the country of New Zealand from 1907 as Dominion. And I think we're going to jump straight into most important alignment I can see, is that this node on the ascendant is trine the New Zealand Sun, applying 2 minutes. Very strong, and I think that's probably the strongest indication we see when I look through everything in this game. So I think that is favourable for New Zealand. We also can see that Neptune up here, 20 Pisces 29, is 1 minute away from sextiling the Mars. A Mars in a country's chart represents sporting success. Mars in New Zealand's chart is in Capricorn, which is exalted, which is strong, trine the moon, trine the MC, sextile Saturn, so it is quite strong. However, it is conjunct the South Node, which is minor, which takes away from that somewhat, but it's still quite strong. Neptune is also trine the North Node there, applying 3 minutes. So you get a strong influence that the node or destiny is playing a part today. However, the Sun over here at 22 Scorpio 24 is going to oppose the New Zealand moon, which is the public feeling, in about 6 minutes, which once again comes around that 8 o'clock local time period. I don't like that. However, if we look at this in total, we've got the moon, Saturn, Mars, the transiting Sun, the MC and the North Node, and also transiting Neptune are in a big 6-point star here, which we call a grand sextile, which is overall positive. The last thing I could see happening from New Zealand is Uranus is over here, applying to a trine to the ascendant. Venus is also applying to a conjunction to Uranus. Not sure how important that is. Alright, let's have a look at the captain, Kane Williamson. So Kane Williamson, the last two games we've looked at on here, his Sun has been active. The first one, we had his Mars on the ascendant, Pluto on the descendant versus India, and it pointed to his Sun. The last game they won against England, the part of fortune was applying to his Sun. So what's happening this game? Well, the MC is 16 Aquarius, IC 16 Leo. His Sun is sort of in the area there of the IC. So if we look at Mars and Pluto, part of his T-square, it is sort of being activated there. Probably not as strong as the last two games, but there is some activation. His progress Sun is actually 15 Virgo around here, which is sextile his Pluto, which is nice, and applying to a trine to his Mars. Now what happens with Kane Williamson, we've also have this Saturn is moving away from his node. You get another node indication for New Zealand. That Saturn is trine the part of fortune. Is it close enough? Yeah, quite possibly. But the moon here, when it moves into Aries, I think is going to be important for New Zealand for this reason. So when it gets to zero Aries is probably the strongest degree in the whole zodiac. So the moon is going to get a real burst of energy there. And it's going to be sesquiquadrate his Pluto and sesquiquadrate his Sun the remainder of the game. So we do get an activation of this Sun, Pluto, Mars pattern, which has been prevalent in New Zealand's winds. And I think that is quite important. Also, Uranus is trine his Neptune, applying 3 minutes, and trine his Mercury. I don't know what Neptune rules in the chart, or Mercury. I suppose it's a 1 in 4 chance it rules his MC. But it does link with New Zealand, so it's a nice aspect, but doesn't necessarily line up with his Sun. The final thing he has is that Sun at 22 Scorpio 24 is applying to his trine to his Venus, and that is a nice aspect for the emotional state. So I'm going to look at the coaches for this one because it's such a big game. So looking at the New Zealand coach here, Gary Steed, what I find interesting is his Saturn is very close to the ascendant at the start. Saturn rules his Capricorn Sun. That's an important planet for success for him. And the node is applying to that, but even closer, the node, his Saturn is trine his Pluto natally, and the node is triggering that. It's on the ascendant. So I think that's quite positive for New Zealand coach. Let's have a look at Australia. This is the chart I use for Australia. So what's Australia got? Mars is at 10 Scorpio 07, just past a sextile to the Sun, and the Sun is trine Mars natally, so that is a good aspect. We also have Uranus is applying to a trine to Mars, about 45 minutes, another good aspect, and Neptune is sextile the Moon, applying 10 minutes, another good aspect for the emotional state of the population. Pluto is on the MC. However, his part of fortune, Saturn, Venus, is square the Saturn up here, Sun conjunction. That is one potential negative there for Australia. Also, you have the South Node is on the ascendant here. That's a minor negative. So overall, Australia looks okay. Aaron Finch, the captain. Let's see what's going on with him. So, we saw Pluto was on the MC for Australia. It is sextile his Sun, separating 18 minutes away, and rules his Sun. That's a positive alignment. We have Jupiter applying to his Mars, applying 25 minutes away. Another positive alignment. Jupiter-Mars combinations are very good. Mars is important here because Mars co-rules Scorpio Sun. However, Mars is square his Sun natally, so that indicates for Australia to win today is going to be a very big challenge. That's the nature of a square. Another thing that Aaron Finch has is Saturn here, which is trine the part of fortune. He's applying to a square to his Pluto now. It's 7 minutes away, and Pluto rules his Scorpio Sun. So that is a definite challenge for Aaron Finch to overcome today, and Pluto is conjunct his Venus natally. So that is one negative for Aaron Finch. Now, avoid, of course, moon at 29 Aries here. Progress Sun is 29 Sagittarius, which is up here. It will be squaring his Sun for the first 2 hours, which is important when we look at Australian coach, which we're going to do now, Justin Langer. So you can see Justin Langer, he's a Scorpio as well as Aaron Finch, and his Sun is sextile Pluto, very nice. The game starts off with this void of course. Moon is opposite his Pluto, then it will move on and trine Neptune right at the end of the game. The South Node is sort of applying to that Neptune, and potentially his Neptune is square his Moon natally, we don't know. So what I found with the void of course Moon, it's not its usual positive self. It's sort of like it's delayed a bit. But when it does get into Aries, I think it will be a big change here. In summary, node on the ascendant is number 1. Probably the Moon going into 0 Aries at about 8 PM local time is number 2. And then that Saturn trine the part of fortune, Venus square fortune. The Frawley method has 1 for the favourite, 1 for the underdog. So 1 for Australia, 1 for New Zealand. New Zealand, I'm probably going to come down to this, that North Node on the ascendant, trine the Sun, applying 2 minutes. The Sun is the most important indicator of success, so it'll be pretty hard for me to go past that. They've also got that Neptune sextile Mars, however, is opposing the Moon, which is a concern, possible grand sextile. That New Zealand looks okay. Kane Williamson, to me, does not look as strong as he has in previous There's 2 big previous wins, so that is a little bit of concern for me. Coach, however, Gary Steed, he links in with that node on the ascendant, so he looks quite good. Australia, the chart for Australia country looks very good. The only concern I have is that part of fortune, sort of the south node on the ascendant for Australia. Finch once again looks very good. The only concern is that Saturn square Pluto, which rules his sun. Otherwise looks very good. Possibly that void of course moon could be an issue. And Justin Langer looks a bit mixed to me with that void of course moon. Plenty of squares and oppositions for Australia, a few conjunctions. New Zealand does have some trines and sun, sun, sun. In other words, the sun for the country, the captain and the coach are being activated. So in this one, I'm giving the slight edge to New Zealand. Now, it's hard for me being an Australian to say that. Really looking at the astrology, I think New Zealand have a slight edge. Australia still look okay. I think that node trine the sun for the New Zealand country is probably the deciding factor for me. Watch for a change in momentum around that 8 PM local time when the moon changes signs. It should be interesting. And please like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.